Beware, I'm a master of words. Worse, I love you as well, so you sort of feel I'm on your side, which is true, but you're still at risk of all the faults that I have. One of my faults is not humility. Did you say lack of humility, Marshall? No, I said humility. You mean you see humility as a fault? Yes. It was said in one of my primary school reports, at primary school, he could sell ice to Eskimos. I mean, he wasn't at all good academically at school. Although I did win the Progress Prize. That's because I started from such an inferior position to begin with. And I only won it once. And in fact, it was the only prize I ever won, I think, because I wasn't up to achieving anything else. It's the sort of consolation prize you give to the biggest loser, isn't it? And I passed them all. All. I became this academic, this university lecturer. Wow! Economist. And a damn good one at that. Outstanding. I could dominate any seminar. Staff seminar, I mean. In an amazing way. I mean, sure, I was, intellectually good and capable in my subject and quick on my feet. And, as I say, a master of words. But what really did it was, I wanted to help everyone in the room. I wanted to bring out the best in everyone in the room. I know it. And they started to know it too. And somehow that made up for all my faults. A major one of which was being faster and brighter than they were. Do you see, humility is not a problem with me. So beware. I am that ghastly Englishman that's absolutely brimming with self-confidence. The ego, the tall poppy in New Zealand that needs to be cut down, scythed down. It's called tall poppy syndrome in New Zealand. They were a very humble lot, and they couldn't bear anyone to be outstanding, and it was known as the sort of New Zealand disease that any tall poppies they would cut down. It's a mythical story, of course. I found New Zealanders to be really nice people, and the Maori people as nice as their oppressors. Hang on. Is there something... Are you making a backhanded point there, Marshall? No, not really. I do love teasing people that are absurd, though. And of course the most pompous are the most absurd, aren't they? My dad was incredibly pompous, especially in my mother's eyes, and I could entertain my mum for hours, copying his pomposity and make her friends laugh. Terrible, isn't it? I was trained to treat Dad with contempt, but not quite. Mum did respect his integrity and his faithfulness, his utter reliability, a man of his word. In the city, principle is my word, is my bond. It had to be on the stock exchange floor because you couldn't be a member if you didn't keep contract word. Nobody would deal with you ever again and you were flung out. So my word is my bond was very important. But yes, we all have our faults, and he was pompous. Dad was brought up to know as a English middle class, well-off child that he was better than other people. woke me up to know that it was hell having people that were in charge of you that felt they were better than you. She despised the class she had come into. And she didn't fit well with the poor either, because she'd so successfully got out of that trap. But when it came to the poor and the suffering and the destitute, she was a sweetheart, an angel. That's my mum. Bless her. Well, when she left, Dad went back to his first wife of 20 years earlier for the last 2 or 3 years of his life, and left his fortune to her. Mum spent the next 30 years holding firmly to her hatred of Dad before she died at about 85. Marshall, well, Marshall had a fantastic life. 3 wives, at least 2 of which utterly loved him, and he was head over heels with them too. And not altogether, you understand, it was one wife after the other. I wasn't a bigamist, and never unfaithful. Thank God. Didn't want to be unfaithful. Oh God, no. And inherited the kingdom of heaven. What more could you want? Thank you, Dad. Thank you, Heavenly Dad. My love is only for you, most beautiful one, most beautiful one. My love is only for you, most beautiful one, most beautiful one. Thank you, Dad. I just have to tell you, insight into the Victorian view. My grandparents were incredibly Victorian. You know, Granddad married Grandma at the age of 34, the boss's daughter, and retired immediately. One used to sign his occupation on forms as gentleman, which meant he supposed to work as a gentleman. Spent his time on the council and playing lawn bowls and growing dahlias. And Mum, of course, from very working class council house upbringing, she was talking to her mother-in-law, Dad's mum, you see, apparently. And she said something like, "Oh, terrible the way women had so many children in those days, the old days, you see." And her mother-in-law said, "Yes, yes, dear, but the poor don't feel like us, you know." Which, of course, made my mum want to tear her hair out. There you go. Mum and Dad weren't, well, they were ideally suited in a sense that Dad was incredibly well off and Mum was incredibly good looking, but it should have been a wonderful trade, but each one really felt, I think, that the other should have felt privileged to have them. Just didn't quite see eye to eye on anything, really. Can't have been that bad, can it? No. Can't have been that bad. It was pretty bad, though. I used to worry like mad about weekends. I was dreading them being together because it was always a nightmare. they could have 3 rows in a day. They seldom became physically violent. Now and again, Mum would throw a few things, and there was the odd scuffle, but nothing violent in the, you know how violence can get. Nothing like that, thank goodness. But of course, that didn't make it any less scary for me. And I can remember we had a presumably church or Christian lady at school teaching religious education. And she was saying about, you know, loving your parents. I said, well, I don't love my dad. And I said, no, I hate him because of the way he is at home. And I'm scared of him. Well, she thought this was terrible to hate your dad, your parent. But she may have had a back of her mind, and perhaps he really is mistreated at home. These days, of course, goodness, school would have panicked, wouldn't they, and checked out, and they wouldn't have found anything. I mean, Dad was a totally honourable man, fine sense of Victorian honour. Mum was fierce at times. Oh my goodness. But the female of the species is more deadly than the male. Well, I've said these things here just to point out that life wasn't all a bed of roses, you know. Not being with Mum until I was 5, having TB, back trouble for 3 or 4 decades of my life. Not to mention the heartbreak each time a wife leaves you. Oh my goodness, I wouldn't wish that on anyone. Yeah. But it was a good life, and I wouldn't have had it otherwise, because it brought me to knowing God better, and this is life eternal, to know Thee, the only true God. And that's why we came. It's a teaching time. It doesn't last very long compared to eternity. And the reward is infinite and eternal. You can't get a better reward than that, can you? Bless you. Thank you, Dad.